welcome to the Velvet YouTube channel. I see you came back interested in that dark persona I mentioned previously. It is one that is surrounded in both mystery and, more importantly, death itself. I assure you, this presentation will only show just a glimpse of its power. It is not one to be trifled with, I assure you. You too can hold powers as great as this persona if you build the bonds with those around you. And next time we meet, I hope these bonds will have bloomed into great flowers. But until then, have a good evening.
So we're back to revisit the D-Arts line. We started with, of course, Izanagi from Persona 4, and now we move on to Persona 3 one, this time in Thanatos from the Death Arcana. Having a look at the figure, I probably don't need to tell you that this is a really imposing looking figure. It does have a bit of a similar colour scheme to Izanagi. It is black, grey. The only thing that really stands out on it is the blue on his coffins. But obviously the silhouette of this guy is very, very different. Once again, this figure has been sculpted really well. It's very accurate to how he appeared in the game. One small problem I have with it is I think the coffins could have had a bit more detail sculpted into him. It just looks a little bit mushy. I mean, I know that's what they're going for and it's accurate, but for me personally, I would have liked it to have been a bit sharper, a little bit more details to pop out from, especially the angel faces. But excusing that, there's really no issues I have with this guy. He's hella impressive. One of the other cool things I like about this toy is the weird bird-shaped head he has. It's very kind of carrion-esque bird or a raven or something, you know, those kind of birds that pick the dead. It's very appropriate for a character based on death itself. Okay, so we've had a look at just his general aesthetic, so what's going to be best now is if I take him away here and get rid of his coffins, like so. So it'll make it a lot easier to show his articulation. We'll start off with his head, because it's the best place to start. It is on a neck joint here, so it can turn all the way around, but it does turn at this weird angle, unfortunately, so he won't look directly left or right, but rather at this kind of weird angle, for instance. Like that. That's about what you're going to get out of it. The jaw surprisingly moves as well, which I didn't think it did, so you can close his mouth or open it up, you know, that far to make it look like he's screaming. He's got a nice interesting face design inside there as well. The neck joint does give a lot of up and down movement, which I forget to mention here. The arm does go out about that far, which is neat. It's also unfortunate that it doesn't have a bit more of a bicep swivel here. It only really turns here. I'm guessing this is so that it doesn't interfere with the sculpt, but, you know, that's about as close to the body as the arm will get. We do have a ball-jointed shoulder, as with most figure arts joint. This one is a bit stiff, or a bit clicky, while this one is a lot more smooth. It rolls around hella easily in comparison, which is slightly weird, but whatever. So let's kind of reposition these, and I'll show you the waist articulation here, but let's move this arm out the way first because it'll look better. So, yeah, the torso can go that far back, but he's meant to be a hunched character, so, you know, he can go forward as well, but he's meant to be more hunched than anything. He does get a bit of side-to-side action here, and he twists a lot more than Izanagi did, and with a lot greater ease. I didn't feel quite as scared about him perhaps snapping as Izanagi. This bottom part of the cape is actually a separate piece, unlike Izanagi again, so it can move up and down, which is a bit faffy because you do need to push it back down every now and again. But because of this, it means the legs, both of them, can move outwards, obviously through the hole here in the skirt. The knee only bends 90 degrees, unfortunately, but it's all you really need, but it stretches out. It actually looks like Aegis's leg. He does have a thigh swivel here, which you probably can't see too well. So let us zoom in, because he actually has another joint further up the thigh where you'd normally expect it to be. So we'll zoom in here. You'll just be able to see it when the buttons of the inner thigh come around when I grab it. and twist. There you go. See, it's got a upper thigh swivel, so you can see it there, and it's got a bottom thigh swivel. Not exactly sure why, but you know, it's neat that it does. I suppose it makes it a lot easier. The legs move outwards that far, which is good. It's better than Izanagi again, mainly due to how open and wide the cape is. And oh yeah, the arms are on a double elbow joint, because I did forget to mention that. Oh, the hands as well. They are on the little pegs, so they twist and swivel and bend, as you'd expect. So you can open him up and make him look like he's gonna, you know, stomp towards you, screaming, and gonna steal your children. And then he falls down dead. Like that. Thanatos doesn't come with a huge amount of accessories, mainly because of these coffins. As you can see, they are pretty big. And take a lot of what I imagine is the budget for this figure. Because it is a bit higher than Izanagi. But, you know, it's got these chains on as well. So the metal probably cost a little bit more, I would guess. It's quite cool because you can move this part up, which would connect to the shoulder here with the ball joint, and it goes all the way around. And it allows you to do a bit more movement to it than originally if it was just a solid piece. You know, also these parts are on the ball joint, obviously, so you can move all of them around. It is a little loose when it gets to this point, though. It does wobble a little bit, but you know, for the most part, they're all tight and they all move individually. And they all work really well, actually. It's a fairly successful accessory piece, I would say. It turned out a lot better than I thought it could have done. Oh, and of course, the only way you can really have this applied is if you attach it to the base, because there's no other way of doing it otherwise. And of course, yes, you do get another base with this figure. Other things that we have to look forward to are two holdy things hands for holding his sword. That's literally all they can do. Then we have some Agito open rage hands. And unfortunately, that's all the hands he has. He only has 2 sets of hands, which is very disappointing. But like I mentioned, budget and whatnot. One of the other accessories is this scabbard here, which is quite cool. Got some nice colours. It does have a nice ball joint here, which is this little white bit popping up, which you'd peg into the skirt. So it does actually have a bit of articulation when you put it in. We have a handle here, which you can pop out. So you can represent the sword being drawn or sheathed. And yeah, I'm guessing they did that so you didn't have a weirdly shaped sword and it's kept all fairly nice looking. And speaking of said sword, here it is. I don't know if it has a special name, but it's a pretty nice sword. Guess what? The handle for it is exactly the same. But I do like this kind of serrated edge they have on it. It's kind of neat. It's not obviously sharp enough to kill yourself, but you know, it's a good representation. And it's got the really awesome Bandai silver on it, as usual. And unfortunately, those are all of his accessories. As I mentioned, I think this was due to how big the coffins were, and including the base, it took up a lot of the figure's cost. But it makes sense, because, like I said, it is a big, big bit of plastic. And that's really all there is to Thanatos. So you need to decide. I would say buy it, because, you know, I like Persona 4, and Persona 3 is hella good as well, and this character is pretty interesting in the game. I won't spoil anything, but it's worth going to play just to see this Persona in action. He improves over a lot of the failings that Izanagi had. He doesn't feel fragile in comparison. He feels a lot more sturdy, and it was a much better second attempt at a figure art, Persona figure, D-art, whatever you want to call them. So I look forward to more future releases from the D-Arts line and obviously the Persona range, because next we have up Kono Hana Sakuya, which will be interesting to see when that pops up, if it's delayed at all, but it should be next month, I think. Either way, I hope you stay tuned for more Persona action, because it's a hella good game and a good TV series. So again, thank you everybody for watching. I hope this was entertaining for you in some form. And I will catch you later for, I think, a G.I. Joe Sigma review next. Oh yes, I'm going there again.